Okay, I hope I'm live. I'm live. All right. Thank you so much. Oh my God, I wish you could have seen the panic on this end of things as we're trying to get it to go to Facebook and it didn't. So we punted and we are now on YouTube. And if you are scrolling on YouTube and you are finding us, I cannot be happier that you are here. So thank you. Hello, Edpuzzlers. Thank you for joining. I'm Stephanie from the Edpuzzle Community Engagement Team. And as always, so grateful that you have chosen to spend the time with us for Edpuzzle Live as we continue our mission to spotlight and share inspirational and innovative instructional ideas with our educator community. I am even more excited for this particular live event, which is the first in a series where we're going to be highlighting Edpuzzle Originals, our amazing Edpuzzle Originals, my favorite thing about Edpuzzles, totally. And our chat is open. So if you are in the chat and you would like to leave a comment, please do. We're going to take some time to tell people a bit about yourself, like what you teach, where you're from. And because we're talking all things language arts, please also share your favorite book or author. Also, during our discussion, please feel free to ask questions of our guests, questions of each other, share your stories, express your own aha moments. If you're evangelizing this event on social media, don't forget to use the hashtag EdpuzzleLive. While you're doing that, I'm going to introduce our guests. And here, I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Our guests are Meg Parker and Jake Jacobs. They are from our ELA curriculum team at Edpuzzle Originals. Jake was an English teacher for 12 years before coming to Edpuzzle. She worked with students in high school and in higher ed, both in the US and Colombia. I'm just dying to know. I have to ask her this question because I don't know if she speaks Spanish or not. She's been with Edpuzzle since 2021, starting as an ELA curriculum designer. Meg Parker is an ELA curriculum designer, and she has over 20 years experience teaching English to students from elementary school to higher ed in both the US and Mexico. Since becoming an ELA curriculum designer at Edpuzzle in 2021, she's worked on our grammar, poetry, literary devices, and drama projects. As a former high school English teacher myself, yes, that's me, my first year teaching, you might be able to guess the decade looking at the hairstyle. Some people used to call it a Rachel, so I'm sure you understand what that means. I am completely geeked about today's discussion, so let's get to it. Welcome, Jake, and welcome, Meg.
Hello.
Hi, ladies. Okay, so we are having, you're already like unimpressed with what's going on here. I am so sorry about, for some reason, the Facebook post got deleted. So we're streaming on YouTube. We got one person right now who is able to find us, but thank you for being here because even if we don't have people, we're going to share this on YouTube with everybody. So super happy to be here. Ladies, what was, I would like to, favorite book, favorite author? That's the question I've got for you.
That is so hard. I'm just going to say what I'm reading right now is The Awakening by Kate Chopin, and I'm loving it so far. I know it's a classic. So that's my current read that I'm really enjoying.
Now I'm jealous because I love that so much. Love that so much. Meg, favorite author? What book you're reading?
I'm reading the book The Rabbit Hutch right now. I can't remember the author. It's a contemporary book that just came out in the past few years. And so far, so good. And favorite author, we're doing a lot of Shakespearean plays right now. And Shakespeare is one of my favorite playwrights, one of my favorite authors, I guess you could say, to read. So yeah, but I also like to read a lot of contemporary fiction. And one of my favorite authors is actually my husband, who is a creative writer. He's written 6 books. Yeah.
No, I love that. Well, my favorite of all time. Okay, first of all, Kate Chopin. Now I'm jealous. Now I'm going to go back and reread that.
Yes.
And as I look at my bookshelf, my very favorite is contemporary is John Irving. I've always liked his Dickensian way of like telling a story. It is, so Dickens. But I was always very partial to anything Brit Lit, but also, man, Kate Chopin and even like our early Southern writers like Faulkner. Yeah, I totally sound like a dork. So you know what? Enough about me and enough about me geeking out. Why don't we go ahead and get started with what we're here to do, and that is to talk about Edpuzzle Originals. Because as a trainer for the company, what I find is that a lot of teachers don't know that our Edpuzzle Originals exist. And I'm like, oh my God, if it takes you longer to look for a video than the video length itself, you're doing it in the wrong place. And that's why Edpuzzle Originals are for everybody. So first question that I have for you all. First question is, what is the story behind the Edpuzzle? Oh, see that story? You like the font? Yeah. What's the story behind Edpuzzle Originals, the ELA videos? How'd they get started?
Yes. Well, I want to say we are on the same page as you, Stephanie. We want it to be so easy for teachers. We want it to be a one-stop shop where they can find everything they need super quickly, super easily. So one of our goals is eventually to make video lessons that cover the whole all the grade levels K through 12 and cover all the ELA standards. We're not quite there yet. We just have a small library, but our goal is to make video lessons that teachers want and need. So as you can see, there's 4 different subject areas on the screen right now. We have poetry, literary devices, grammar, drama. We started with grammar just because we needed a place to start, and it seemed like there was a lack of good standards aligned grammar videos for 3rd to 5th grade teachers. So that's what that grammar project entails. It's geared towards elementary students, and they hit the language standards from the core curriculum standards. And right now we have over 200 grammar videos that teachers can choose between on all kinds of grammar topics like fragments, run-ons, and subject-verb agreement, all kinds of stuff. So that was the first project we started just because there seemed to be a need there. And then after that, we started looking at search terms. What are teachers on Edpuzzle searching for? Because we want to create things that people are looking for, that they want, not just what we want to create. And a lot of the search terms pointed to literary devices and poetry. We also did some user research interviews talking to teachers just to make sure that is what they want. And so we started a poetry project, which are lessons based on the Common Core standards also. Meg's going to tell you more about those a little bit later. We currently have about 50 poetry lessons from various authors and time periods. And then for our literary devices project, we have about 35 lessons right now, I think, covering different types of literary devices. Like you can see the examples, we have consonants and idioms, but there's a ton of stuff in there, and I hope you guys will check out our library. Our most recent project is dramas. And you can see, maybe you can see the thumbnail is for Macbeth and A Raisin in the Sun. That's just where we started, but we're planning on doing a lot more dramas. Those are just the projects we have right now, but we plan on doing a lot more in the future.
Okay. And I love, again, I think that's a question I always get when I'm working with teachers is, why did you start here? Why did you think but I will tell you, I've used a lot of these lessons myself and dug in, and they are absolutely brilliant. And how many more are in the works? Like, what are you guys working on right now?
Well, we don't know how many are in the works, whatever it takes to hit all of the standards for every grade level. So we do want to do eventually writing videos or grammar for high school, which you don't have right now, or reading strategies. So I don't have an exact number, but I will say for dramas, that's our most recent project that we're working on right now. So that's what people can be looking for very soon.
Okay. And that's what I like how you said is that, and I think this is the key, you're hitting every standard for every grade level. So no one should be spending all of their time, poring over YouTube, Googling, trying desperately to find something they need when it's all right here. And all you have to do is click the standard and find exactly what you need. Yes. So why don't we talk, Meg, I totally interrupted you. Did you want to add to that? Do you want to add anything to? Okay. So this is how they're categorized in Edpuzzle. Okay, so again, if you have your, you go into your Edpuzzle dashboard, we'll talk about how to find that later, but it's right under the Discover, and it says Edpuzzle Originals. So now let's talk about how Edpuzzle Originals, these specifically, because each content area I know is different. So specifically for ELA, how are your videos structured?
Okay, we're going to take it one project at a time, starting with grammar. So in our grammar videos, students will learn a specific grammar standard. Well, it's a language standard that is based on grammar. So students will follow the story of two characters, and you can see the two characters on the screen. Sam is a human girl, and Spike is an alien. So all of the lessons start out with these two characters, and Spike is still trying to learn how to live on Earth with the humans. So he makes a lot of mistakes. Sometimes those mistakes are grammar mistakes, which is our entry point into the lesson. And so usually Sam, his human friend, will correct him, and through correcting him, will teach him about grammar. And we hope the students will learn about grammar along with Spike. So the example picture that we have on here, the big one on the left, is when Spike was speaking in fragment sentences. So he just says, snow everywhere. And Sam has a hard time following what he wants because he's not speaking in complete sentences or even complete clauses some of the time. So this is a lesson on independent versus dependent clauses. And then all of the lessons start with some kind of misunderstanding that Spike, the alien, has had because of his limited grammar knowledge. So I won't go over all the pictures on the left, but the one in the middle, you can see it says Dr. Bill, and that's a lesson on capitalization. So since Spike didn't understand capitalization, he didn't know if this letter in the mail was a Dr. Bill or if it was a letter from Dr. Bill. And so then throughout the lesson, he'll be corrected on those things. So that's our introduction to the videos. And all of these videos follow the I do, we do, you do model of gradual release. So yes, perfect. So after we have that brief story introduction, then we'll explain what Spike did wrong in the introduction. That's the I do. The students don't have to answer any embedded questions at this point. They just watch us model it. And we'll often give them tips or strategies to follow so that when they do have to answer the embedded questions, they're prepared for that. So after we've explained the grammar topic in that first I do section, we'll move on to the we do section, where we guide students through the thought process for understanding this specific grammar topic by asking carefully scaffolded questions. And then sometimes part of that scaffolding is having little images or labels on the screen to help remind them of what they're looking for. And then finally, the you do section will remove the scaffolded questions to give students the chance to show what they know about this topic on their own. So that's how they're structured. And then
I have a real quick question too, because I also wanted to point this out. These are very visually appealing. I mean, they're not boring. It's not a chalkboard. It's not a whiteboard. You have your own curriculum. You have your own design and production team too, right?
We have a video production team. We have illustrators, animators who really bring these characters to life. So the stills that you're seeing right now are just like simple illustrations, which will pop up we don't want it like a movie to be playing the whole time because we don't want students to be distracted. But at the beginning and the end, we'll have animated stories that draw students in and get them excited about what we're going to learn. And the video production team just does an amazing job of bringing these characters to life.
They sure do. They really do. Okay. So you're going to walk us through, we don't have the sound on this, but you're going to walk us through a clip.
Yes.
Meg, are you going to do this, or whoever you're going to walk us through what it would look like?
Yeah, you can start. So this is find two types of clauses, and this is a lesson on dependent and independent clauses. So this is after the introduction where students have seen Spike make the mistake. So then we're walking them through it. We show them, here's this sentence or this phrase. Well, we don't know what it is, this group of words. We can catch snowflakes. Yes, it has a subject. Yes, it has a predicate. So we know it's a clause. So that's what we're showing them. And then after that, we'll give them steps to figure out if it's an independent or a dependent clause. Yeah, and so then we have that little chart on the right that is like a visual cue. So later, when they're doing it on their own, during the scaffolded practice, that chart will pop up and they'll be able to like do a mental checklist and ask themselves, does this have a subject? Does this have a predicate? And then in the final section, Oh, and then, yes, then there's another question. Well, is it a complete thought? And then that question is going to help them differentiate between an independent and a dependent clause. So we use that chart as scaffolding. We'll show them another example. We'll let them know, yes, this is a clause. We have a subject and a verb, and then we'll ask them, is it a complete thought? And at this point, we're still walking them through it. They're not answering any questions yet. This is not a complete thought. So then this is lacking information. So now we know this is a dependent clause. So then after this is the I do section. After that, they're ready to answer some questions on their own, still with a little bit of help from us.
This is amazing. This is like, again, it's not the whiteboard. It's not boring. You're really, truly matching the visual and the verbal.
I think it's fun. I enjoy watching them.
Yeah, I love that. I do. Actually, I do too. And I will tell you, comma splices were the bane of my existence when I was an English teacher. So, yikes. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So we also have, so that's from grammar. So any grammar issues you've got, that's nicely chunked together. Another category we have are literary devices.
Yes. Okay. So based on looking at what teachers were searching for on Edpuzzle, we found that a lot of teachers in middle school and high school are looking for lessons on specific literary devices. So this project is geared toward middle and high school classrooms. So here we have the thumbnails from 3 different types of lessons that we have. So the first one, you have Illusion, which is a lesson that's just going to focus on one literary device. We have another, and most of our lessons are like that. They just focus on one. But then we have some other lessons that will teach students how to distinguish between two different things. So we have a lesson that's analogy versus illusion. And then we have another type where they're not necessarily distinguishing between 2 things like tone and mood. They're just learning about them simultaneously and how they build on each other. So each of these lessons also follow similar structures and we try to include a variety of text and stuff. You can go to the next slide in the slide deck. So each of our lessons tries to include a variety of different texts from different authors and different areas of the world. So,
I love even like song lyrics.
Yeah.
I was watching one of the song lyrics. It was amazing.
So
yeah,
this might be hard to see, but I included this just so you could see some different types of passages that we're using. So we'll have excerpts from speeches. We have a speech from Martin Luther King Jr. We have song excerpts. So here we have a Taylor Swift song. We have some that are from news briefings. So there's one here that's from a COVID-19 news briefing. And actually I have a clip from that video later on. That's a video on personification. And then we have novels, we have poetry, but we just want to expose the students to lots of different types of texts and also show them that this is something that's all around them. It's not just in textbooks. They've probably heard analogies before, even though they're not realizing that's what they're hearing. So we just like to include a variety of different things for them to look at.
And it brings it together so nicely. It's so much better than a worksheet.
Yes.
Oh man.
Yeah. And these are all animated too. So they're interactive. They also follow the same structure as our grammar lessons. So it's the gradual release model. So we start with the I do, and we'll use these real world examples. And first we'll have students identify the literary device. Well, actually, I'm moving ahead of myself because before students have to do it, we're going to model how to do it for them. So we'll show them how to find the literary device in this text. So on screen, we have an example of personification. We'll look at the text and then we'll tell them how we know that that specific part of the text is personification. So in addition to teaching students how to identify these literary devices in a text, we also put a lot of emphasis on the effect that using this literary device will have on the author's work. So in the example on the left, you can see on the bottom right-hand corner that little mask icon with some text next to it. And we use those icons to show the different effects that this literary device might have on a specific work. So here for personification, one of the effects we've identified is that it creates mood. And we'll teach students about that in the I do section so that when they move on to do it on their own, they're primed to look for those things. And they've already learned what some of those effects might be. And then in the analogy lesson, we've pulled out 3 effects that an analogy might have on a text. So, oh gosh, this is small for me. I'm trying to remember. So one effect is that An analogy can explain or clarify an idea. It can make an idea more memorable, or it's also a way to help students or help anyone really understand a specific concept. So then in the I do and we do, after we've modeled how to find these and how to determine the effects of these literary devices, we'll move on to the you do. So we'll remove the scaffolding questions. We'll still have some multiple choice questions that students can answer on their own, but then at the very end, we'll end with an open-ended question that you see here. So this example was from a lesson on metaphors, and students will be prompted to just write a short answer, 2 to 3 sentences, maybe showing that they know how to use this device in their own sentences, in their own writing. So the prompt here is think about any relationship in your life, romantic or otherwise, and write a metaphor to describe it. And then we have the sentence starter for them. So hopefully by this point in the lesson, they're ready to do that on their own.
That would be an open-ended. So
yes.
it's not multiple choice. They're not guessing. They're actually applying something that they've learned.
Yeah. And most of the questions in the video are open-ended until we get to the end, just in case teachers want to assess whether or not students can incorporate this into their writing.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. I love that. I do. I've been just enamored with the whole idea. And again, evangelizing it to every conference or every training session I go to. All right. So you want to walk us through an example of a personification video?
Okay. So this is from, yes, personification. And this is an excerpt from a text that was from a COVID-19 briefing.
Temporary.
Yes. And we try to include at least one nonfiction text in every video that we have, sometimes more if possible. So at this point, they've already been taught what personification is. They're familiar with the definition, but since this is still the we do section, we'll put the definition up there to help them in case they forget. And then we'll give them the multiple choice question, which part of this text has personification. And then we'll do a lot of highlighting and annotating here too. And then also we'll give them the effect that this device might have on the text. In this case, I think it was connecting this text to something familiar to you. And then in the you do section, they'll have to come up on their own with what effect this device might have on the text.
So good. So application of learning.
Yes, exactly.
Gosh, that's so great. And I love that model. I do, you do, or I do, we do, you do. And again, it's that like gentle, that gradual, gentle release, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so after literary devices, the next category that we have is poetry.
Yeah, and I'll tell everybody about our poetry project. So we started this project because we saw that teachers were searching for videos on poems, on poets, and on poetic or literary devices. And we thought this was a great way to hit all of those things that teachers are looking for. So in our poetry videos, students practice the analysis of literary devices through the context of a poem. And these are neat self-contained lessons that you can easily insert into your routines at the beginning of a class or for homework or as inspiration at the end of a class. But we don't stop with just a close reading of the poem, which is what we do through a lot of these videos. First, students see a reading of the poem, and then we do a lesson on that poem.
I love this. I love the visualization.
Yeah, and so you can see a lot of our poem readings. We try to use a variety of artistic styles to represent the ideas in the poem. And actually, if we go to the next slide.
Yeah. I just think it makes, again, it makes it come to life. It's not just, because sometimes you'll show a video and it'll just be the words on a page. This, I mean, you are seeing the poem as you're reading it with the images.
We try really hard to have our images scaffold the students' understanding of the text. Any like difficult words or concepts that they might be having a hard time visualizing, we try to design the art to match that. So this is actually the first poetry video that we ever made. It's Hughes, yeah.
Trivia, ding, ding, ding. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it is of Langston Hughes, Mother to Son. And our video production team did an amazing job on the visuals. So you can see that it's very dynamic, and we're using, the text, kinetic text, moving text to show to mirror the meaning of the words.
And it's really evocative too. I mean, by adding the images, because poetry is supposed to, create this emotion in you and bring this to the surface. And so adding the visuals, really, even there, the dark, no light. I mean, and okay, I'm a curriculum geek and a reader, and I have goosebumps like watching that. Like it does, I can feel the poem.
Yeah, so we try to have the voiceover, which is read by great voiceover actors, the visuals, everything match the mood and the tones of the poems and get students excited about learning more about what the poem is about and analyzing more. So if we go to the next slide, after the students watch a reading of the poem, then we delve deeper into the instructional lesson. And this is where we guide students through an analysis of the poem by analyzing two key literary devices that are prominent in the poem. And we'll take one literary device, kind of like lead them through first, introducing the device, having them identify the device, and then having them think about the effect of the device in the poem. And then we do that for another literary device as well. And for each device, we scaffold our questioning, again, like with the other videos, leading students from lower order to higher order questions. And so you can see we also try to annotate the text and model annotation for students by highlighting, by annotating with words or, arrows. Or
that was like one of the hardest things for me to try to teach is annotating a text. And the fact I literally, I cannot, everything you do, you're not just putting up videos. You're very carefully meeting the needs of the students. I'm like, seriously, you guys, I might be your biggest fan. But yeah, the idea is that you're modeling how to annotate. And the fact that it's in a video is that students can, rewind it and go back. And even if they have a copy of their own, they can try that too. So just absolutely brilliant. Just like you need me to be your cheerleader. All right. So after the reading, after the visualization, after the annotating.
Yeah, then we get to the end of the video, and now we're ready to kind of consider the lesson's bigger themes and use those to make text-to-self connections. And so there's a final question that asks students to connect the text to their own lives, like, how do you sing yourself, Song of Myself, or show your pride, and what makes and what about yourself makes you do so, or connecting, in the New Colossus, which is the poem that's on the Statue of Liberty. Do you think the United States lives up to the values of acceptance and hospitality expressed in the poem? So students are really connecting the poems to their own lives, showing how poetry is relevant to all of us. We can all find ways to connect with poetry, to learn from poetry, to have our lives enriched by poetry. So that's our big aim with these poetry videos.
I love that. Oh, so genius. Okay, and now drama, which I can't even imagine how much time this takes to even, because drama is huge. So right now we have 2, but Jake, I hear there's a big secret announcement. Today something dropped.
Well, Meg can share that.
Meg, okay, yeah. So share that big news.
Okay.
You're going to make a lot of 9th grade teachers real happy.
So our newest project's drama, like Jake said, and for each play, we create a unit that includes one introduction and historical background to start off with. And then we go deeper into the play with our summary and close reading videos. So every unit for each play will have one introduction and then a series of 5 to 8 summary and close reading videos. So we've worked so far on A Raisin in the Sun, Macbeth, and those 2 are on the site ready to go. We've done Romeo and Juliet. We have 2 videos now ready for that, and more coming very, very soon. Fences, The Crucible, Julius Caesar, and currently we're working on Hamlet and Othello on writing scripts. So those will be coming up, and there are many more to come as well.
I'm sorry, what is? That is the sound of high school teachers all over the country clapping. Thank you.
We hope so.
It is hard to teach drama. It's either you're just reading it or you're telling them to read it. And it's so hard. Okay, so let's get into what these look like. Whoops. Hold on. Let me back up here. Okay, yeah. Sorry about that. Okay. I got excited. All right. So you start off first with.
We start first with an introduction and historical background. And if we can go to the next slide, Steph. In these videos, we try to give students context for the play because we've heard from a lot of teachers that they're having a hard time finding great introduction videos for plays that include the information that they themselves would put in a lecture or want to teach them.
Yes. And I would like to highly point out when I do trainings for Edpuzzle, this is the first thing I say. If you have a lecture, first go to see if you can find an Edpuzzle original for it, because these definitely replace the lecture. They're more engaging and more visually appealing. And you've done the work. So you've made it easier for teachers to find the information that they need.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is a lot of work. I know, as someone who would spend an entire class period lecturing about Shakespeare and the intro to Romeo and Juliet, well, my students were like this, the drool, a big string of drool hanging out. So this is specific to Raisin in the Sun, right? With these screenshots are from Raisin in the Sun, correct?
Yeah, so we try to really give in these introduction videos a social and historical background of the author, but also the author's time period and the play setting, because those aren't always the same. So here for Raisin in the Sun, we if we can go back just when we're giving information about the Great Migration, but also about Lorraine Hansberry's biography and what might have influenced her to write the play. And then the next part is we talk about the genre of the play and introduce some of the major characters in these intro videos. And then at the end of the video, we try to get students to start thinking about the play's themes, even though they haven't really read anything yet, and how those themes might be relevant to their own lives and how they probably already have experience dealing with these themes.
So that big overarching essential question that is necessary to help them, that they'll keep back of mind as they read the play.
Exactly. So as they're, before they even start reading, they're already primed to be looking for these themes, thinking about how the themes play out throughout the play.
Nice.
So if you show the next, we have a little clip from, this is our introduction to A Raisin in the Sun. And you can see we're talking about the Great Migration here. We show how the play takes place in Chicago and what it was like there during the Great Migration. That's the younger family from the play. This part is about redlining, which is a difficult practice to understand for students, but is really important for what's going on in the play. So we try to make everything visually interesting, scaffolded for students. Think about all the work that goes into a PowerPoint that a teacher might have to do to present this information to students. And we've tried to do that for you.
And you've got it covered. And again, I think too, I know that, students would always be like, well, why do I have to read this? Or why do we have to read that? Or why do we have to read Shakespeare? Or why do I have to read something that's, from the past? And I'd always say it's always historical. It's always connected somehow. And a lot of the themes are still kind of relevant today. And, that the authors at the time are writing about what they know. And to read is sometimes to get another different slice of history that you might not get in a history book. But so that's, I think, and I have to tell you, honestly, watching this video on my own, I learned quite a bit myself. So it's not just for students. It's some really good information for teachers who are time strapped.
Yeah, and we have had teachers and user research tell us that just researching all of this information takes them so much time. Yeah. That's not even putting together a great engaging lesson for students. Right. So that's just
exactly
the preparatory work. So we're trying to do that for teachers and help everybody out. Okay. So next, after you've shown the introduction and students are ready to start reading, then we've put together these close reading and summary videos to really delve into the plays themselves. If you'll go to the next one. So in these, we do a short summary at the beginning of what's happening before we get to some important passages. So here we analyze the language in the key passages, a little like the way that we analyze the poetry text, with, annotating, highlighting, underlining. So we show how the passages relate to the play's overarching themes. We try to feature the themes like different dreams prominently on screen, so students are keyed into those. And then we talk a lot about character and plot development and how these passages fall into the plot arc, or into what they say about how a character is developing. We try to do a lot of research on how teachers are teaching these plays and what the important themes are for teachers. And then we try to integrate that into our writing and design of the videos.
And that's a really interesting point. You've mentioned, and I wanted to bring that to the forefront, that you do listen. You have a user research team. So you are asking teachers for what they need instead of just assuming this is what they would need.
Absolutely. And we're not just doing that. We listen very carefully to teachers and user research, but we're also looking at blogs of middle and high school teachers to see how they're teaching these plays. We're looking at materials on Teachers Pay Teachers or elsewhere on the web. We're looking at, handouts that teachers are creating to give to their students for homework. I mean, we try really hard to see what it is that a teacher's trying to highlight about this play for their students. And
yeah, I will tell you, a picture is worth 1,000 words. There's just nothing, you can't beat it. I mean, matching the visual and the verbal, matching the visual with the written word is a complete win. It's easy for teachers, but it's so beneficial to students. They're actually seeing it in action, and they're seeing, again, the modeling of the notations. And, that's the other thing too. I would always ask students to just, even if you don't want to notate, so just sketch note something, the snake, again, just as a visual reminder for students. So yeah, bravo. I do love this so much. All right. And then you also have a big final question at the end for your drama.
We do. So now at the end, we try to get students to consider that part of the play from a wider angle and either evaluate the changes in a character, like on the left, or make a prediction, or say what their opinion is, or consider their own viewpoints on the play's characters and events.
Yeah.
If you go to the next slide, we have a little segment from the end of the Act 1, Scene 1, close reading for A Raisin in the Sun, when we're kind of asking students to reflect on the plant in A Raisin in the Sun, which is a big symbol. So we're presenting them with something that Mama says about the plant, and then we ask students to think about the symbol and how it relates to the characters. So, we introduce that literary device and the definition.
That's so funny. Just a side note. Yeah, I was watching a show on Netflix with my kid, and I was like, well, that's a symbol. That's coming. He goes, do you do this for everything you watch? I'm like, yeah, because now I've been trained to do it. Now it's like naturally come to see the symbols. And I was watching this thinking that, that you students, of course, will see it because they have to read it for school, but maybe they'll start seeing it in the shows that they binge watch,
Yeah, that's what we hope by always, a common theme in all of our videos is relevance and trying to show students how these things don't just exist in a book in school, how people use language this way, every day, and all the literacy, all the texts, all the, media that they're watching and be applied to all of that. So those are the poetry and drama projects.
Okay.
I'm very excited for teachers to delve in.
Very excited. So when we talk, let me go back there. So we're going to talk about this in a minute. So I'm going to put that on hold. But I do want to know, again, we briefly touched on it, but what's next for your team in terms of creation? Again, the goal is to hit every single ELA standard. So, what's in the works? What are your days like? What are your days consumed with lately?
So right now we're doing some user research for a new project on author biographies for middle and high school. We're very excited about that. That's what we're currently doing the most user research on, and trying to figure out like what those will look like and what teachers want. We're also thinking of some grammar videos, and grammar and sentence level, sentence construction videos for high school and middle school, because we've had a lot of middle school and high school teachers tell us they love our salmon spike videos, but
is something coming along with like how to write a thesis statement? Because that I can see where that might be super useful.
We will be addressing writing at some point in the future for sure. That's a definite goal that we talk about a lot. We also would like to look into reading strategies videos and reading comprehension videos for elementary school. So we're trying to kind of think about how we can cover a breadth of grade levels in our next projects.
So how, again, you said you're scouring the web, you're seeing what teachers are doing, you're seeing their blog posts. But if teachers, this is an unscripted, I just was curious, how could teachers get in touch with the curriculum team or the user research team if they had a request or an idea?
I don't know if we have like anything in place for that right now. Okay. Well, I know that I don't have Twitter, but I know, Steph, you're very active on Twitter. I feel like that's a place where teachers could shout out and be like, hey, Edpuzzle, when are you going to make videos on this? We really need videos on this. I feel like that would be a great way to let us know what you want. Or just keep searching, entering the search terms on Edpuzzle. We base a lot of what we're planning on doing based on search terms, but probably the best way is Twitter.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think social media, and I know that Kate, our social media person, shout out Kate, she is right on top of things. Anytime a teacher makes a request, she passes it along. So you can, teachers, if there's anything more you want to learn or you want to see, go ahead and DM me, post it to our Edpuzzle account, tag Edpuzzle, and we'll make sure that it gets to our lovely Jake and Meg and the rest of the curriculum team for use in that. Before we go into our next question, which is, okay, now let's talk about how we can really use these in the classroom. Because this is something I find, again, when I'm in front of teachers, when I'm doing trainings or conferences or things like that, I'm going to close this for a second. I'm going to exit the slideshow. Sorry, as I'm talking through things. A lot of teachers don't know where to find. It's so bizarre. So they're like, well, where are these Edpuzzle Originals? Well, okay, hold please, and I will share with you how that works. So if you just go to Edpuzzle, you just go to your regular edpuzzle.com account. For some reason, I don't know why, but when you, whoops, sorry about that. Let me make this a little bigger. Okay. So a lot of teachers go straight to Discover and they'll type in a YouTube, the URL, what they need, or the subject of what they need, or they use what I call these little Amazon filters to find what they need. But all you need to do, peeps, is just head over that. Just go one under Discover and you will find, and we're going to talk more about math and science in some future episodes. So if you're a social studies teacher and you're not feeling the love, don't panic. We're doing social studies in June. But you can see, just click on ELA and it is right there like Jake and Meg promised. Everything there is according to category. And you can just go ahead and click on in there and find your videos. I will tell you, the one I wish I had when I was a high school teacher, when I had my Rachel do, was denotation and connotation. This is a great video lesson. I've watched this a ton of times just for my own amusement, but really trying to explain these things to kiddos can be difficult without good, solid video content. And considering that so many of our students today are used to acquiring content through video, it just seems to be a win-win situation.
Yeah.
All right. And that brings me to my next question. So what can we do? Okay, we've got them. What are your best recommendations for ELA Edpuzzle Originals in the classroom? So I asked them both beforehand. And Jake, you want to talk through how you might say, use the Raisin in the Sun introduction as a lesson plan?
I'm going to let Meg take the drama and then I'll do the drama.
So, Did I get that screwed up? I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right.
So for the introduction and historical background videos, we've definitely assigned those before reading the text with students to get them primed to read first. And then these would be a great jumping off point for discussing the backgrounds more in class. For the close readings, those are the ones that look at the passages and the scenes and acts in more depth. I might have students read that part of the play for homework and then show that close reading video at the beginning of class, and use the final question at the end of the video, because each video ends with a kind of like discussion question, really. I might have them watch the video, answer the questions, look at the discussion question, type in their answer to that, and think about their answer to that. And then I might start my discussion for the day with that question, having students share their answers with each other. And then kind of use that as a launching point for my own lecture, which will probably deal with, what was dealt with in the video, but also I probably want to go more in depth with other passages that weren't in the video, or ideas that weren't in the video, or develop themes that weren't developed as much in the video. So I think there are a lot of ways we can use students.
I love that. I love it, because again, it is hard to decide how to read a play. Do you do a whole class read aloud? But now you've got that backup, so they can still read it on their own, but then, get a little more clarification and scaffolding the next day in class. Super smart. Okay. All right. So Jake now has an idea. Sorry, I screwed that up again, ladies. This is not the most professional of shows.
No.
But Jake, why don't you walk through how you might use an Edpuzzle lesson in your classroom?
Yes. Well, lots of ways to use them. So I'll just go over a few. So our grammar videos would be great to use for intervention for students who need targeted writing practice. So for the example you see here, fix fragments, we have leveled videos of the same topic. So we might have a video that's a little bit easier than this. That's just called identify fragments. So students who are really struggling with this, you might start them with that video and then move them along to the higher level videos. So first they would identify in one video, and then maybe another day you could actually have them fix the fragments in this video that you're showing right here. So these lessons can also be used as a bell ringer in live mode, as a way to get students excited about a topic. They could be used for homework. They're super easy to assign for review. All of the questions in the grammar videos are multiple choice, so it's super easy to grade them. I think they're so great to use in class or at home. Those are just a few ways that you could use them for your students.
And for teachers who don't know, if students download the Edpuzzle app to their phone, they can even do it, anywhere. They could do their homework on the bus. They could do it, at the library. They could do it, at whenever. It's as long as they don't necessarily need to have the laptop. As even if they've got a phone, they're able to do that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to make it a little bit about me, because how would this be an Edpuzzle Live if I didn't somehow make it about me? But again, just from my experience working with teachers all over the country in trainings and conferences, these are some of the ways I recommend, because I always like a good lesson plan. Speaking of, I have a lesson plan for y'all that you can use and model for your own Edpuzzle videos. I'll share that in a bit. But like I said, target intervention. Jake had mentioned that as well. The idea of instead of taking an entire class period to teach all of my students how to fix their comma splices, when I've only got like 7 kids being the repeat offenders, why not just assign a specific video to those students? And I can do that in a station rotation with those kiddos, or assign it as, extra work, or, if there's some time at the end of class. So targeted intervention is a great way, especially use those grammar Edpuzzle ELA videos. Editing and rewriting. So the idea of, we're going to introduce a new skill, the idea of how to revise something, because students really don't understand. They just think fixing mistakes is revising. But doing a little guided practice, and then, have them, what does it look like? And maybe even as they can, because it's an Edpuzzle video, they can pause it. And then they can, look at what their writing looks like and apply it immediately. So even, there's one teacher and like 30 kids in the classroom, now you've sort of multiplied yourself and made it easier on you. Love the idea of the guided poetry analysis. Again, we've already talked about that earlier with the idea of the visual and walking them through a poem, because poems can be very abstract and complex for students. So being able to add those visuals brings it to life. And of course, as we also just discussed, the idea of providing that historical context. So instead of having a lecture about here's everything you need to know about Fair Verona and Romeo, we're going to watch this video, and that's going to bring some things to life. So that's always ways that I recommend it for teachers. Also, what I do tend to see, Jake and Meg, is a lot of teachers just think in terms of not just our Edpuzzle original videos, but Edpuzzle in general. A lot of teachers use it just as a formative, which is a great place to start. I think that's a great place to start to see where your students are at. But now start thinking in terms of, I could use this in a station rotation. Considering that in a station rotation, one station has to be online. You could have students watching a video, like you said, about writing and revising. And then the next station, that group of students is coming to you, the teacher, and you're working with them to revise their writing and give them important feedback.
Yep.
I love, again, the idea of poetry readings, I would love to share some of these poetry readings in live mode, Edpuzzle live mode, so all students can see it and you're getting instant feedback from the whole class. And of course, differentiation. All students don't learn the same. So that you can take any Edpuzzle original. Of course, you can edit it, although I don't recommend it because they're really well done, and don't make more work for yourself. But certainly if there are students, again, with the idea of targeted intervention, if there are students who just need a little extra support, or students who maybe need a little enrichment, it's not a bad idea to use some of these Edpuzzle videos in that way for, instructional practices. Okay, I'm done. Now I'm done lecturing. All right. So we've covered so much, even though this started out, we had the technical difficulties. I think we've got everything covered. By the way, I don't want anybody to forget, I will absolutely, while this is live streaming now, I'm going to edit this video, speaking of, and it'll be up on our YouTube channel so you can share generously.
Awesome.
Jake, Meg, anything you want to add here at the end?
I just hope that teachers will explore the videos that we have. I'm certain that every ELA teacher will be able to find something that they can use. And there's just so much in there. Just browse around on that Edpuzzle Original tab that Steph showed. And I'm sure you'll find something great.
Oh, like this. And then Meg, what do you want to add? Anything?
Yeah, I'd say when you have some free time, browse around, explore, write down ones that you'd like to use in the future, or so however you keep track of your materials for teaching different texts. Add in, there's an Edpuzzle original for this one. I think that you'll definitely find things that you can insert into your curriculum.
That's a really good piece of advice.
Yeah, especially our poetry videos. We deal a lot with holidays and like International Women's Month, or different topical times of the year or seasons, are just themes where you can just throw in a poetry video. Look through the poetry collection and see if there's one that you can use even next week.
I cannot thank you enough for so generously putting up with me this past week, sharing your ideas and resources, and see all the hard, devoted work that you are doing, especially in the month of Teacher Appreciation. I hope you know how much I appreciate you, and I'm sure all of the teachers who use these Edpuzzle original videos. So thank you for that. I appreciate you guys so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. I mean it. It was absolute joy to have you. Okay, so we did talk a lot. We shared a ton of ideas. This will be on the YouTube channel, so make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel and hit the little subscribe button, because you'll get a notification every time a new video drops. We don't want you to miss out on anything. Like I said, shared what I've got here is a little bit of information. I got you, sis. I know we shared a lot of info. This is the doc that's going to get you started with everything you need to know about getting started with ELA Edpuzzle Originals in your classroom tomorrow. We've got a great blog post here about how to use it, Edpuzzle Originals. We also have, if you've got a standard in mind, but you don't have time to search through it, we've got what we call air tables, and I don't know what that term means, but they're air tables, and it's got the standard listed, and boom, a corresponding Edpuzzle video. So all you have to do is click these links. I have also created a sample lesson plan. So it's a PDF. You can print it out, and I've kept it as simple as possible. It's like how to talk about extended metaphor. So feel free to borrow it and copy it and use it when you're using Edpuzzle Originals in the classroom. I want you to be able to go ahead and do that. And of course, you can always learn more about Edpuzzle Originals from our website. So everything is there. And I'm going to drop that right into the chat now so that you all, our viewers, can grab it and link to it. Let me drop it in the comments right there. Okay, there it is. Awesome. So I'm going to leave that there. Again, it'll also be in our YouTube video. And I think I've got everything covered. Also, as I mentioned, this is the first in a series of Edpuzzle Original live events. We are going to be promoting social studies, science, math, and special projects over the next few months. So one a month. Be sure to follow our socials. Keep an eye on your Edpuzzle email so you do not miss a thing. We don't want you to miss anything. And our next Edpuzzle live event is coming up on Tuesday, June 6th. The date is a little different. Usually we do it on Thursdays, but Emma, we had a little scheduling conflict. So on Thursday, June 6th, we're going to help you help your students unleash their creativity. So they don't have to be excellent artists. They just have to be, we're going to use Google Draw and Google Slides, if you can believe it, for student. And you'll see some of these breathtaking results that students can manage. So you can, if you have your phone, you can go ahead and scan that QR code, or I'm going to drop the link for registration in the comments as well. Let me do that.
Sounds fun.
It is. She's amazing. Emma is this middle school teacher and digital creator, and she uses Google Draw and Google Slides.
That's so cool.
And students are creating like Andy Warhol type stuff, or it's amazing. I mean, it's just absolutely flawless. So I hope you all will join us. And again, once we have the information and registration link for our next Edpuzzle Originals that's June 12th, but I don't have any information on that yet, but check our socials. In fact, yep, I've got that there at the bottom for our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being with us. You can find our past Edpuzzle live events on YouTube. And you know what? If you are watching this right now and you're looking for some quality, not boring professional development, I would recommend showing this YouTube video to your department. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about how boring PD is. I think this was engaging and interesting and so much fun. So Meg, Jake, thank you for putting up with me. Thank you for being spectacular guests. Thank you for all of the information you provided. Thank you to our educators using Edpuzzle to make learning more engaging for our kiddos. Hope to see you all at our next Edpuzzle live event, and happy Edpuzzling. Bye, everyone. Thank you.